Ladies and 2021ers, Andy here, author of the best Tinder guide on the internet, and person with no fucking hair on my head at this point in time, or ever. This is the Kill Your and Loser show. Let's fucking go. What do you want to say? I'm joined with my girlfriend, my side bitch, Imogen. Hi.
Well, I was going to say you do have hair. It's just you've shaved it.
That's true. Now, I want to make something very clear. Imogen is my girlfriend, aren't you?
Yes.
Because I always introduce you with a different thing at the start of every podcast. And some guy left a comment basically saying, is she your main chick or your side chick?
It's probably because you did that same intro, but you said like 5 different conflicting things.
Yeah. So she's my main chick. We've been together for like too many years at this point in time. I love you very much. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do a recap of 2021. And this is going to be a big, long fucking list. So one thing that I do every single year, we're probably going to do this as a 5-part series or multi-part series, but one thing I do every single year, or you and I do, is we sit down and we go over everything that we achieved that year, or everything we did, everything we're grateful for, however you want to phrase it. And this is something I recommend you guys do. Abso-fucking-lutely. By the time this comes out, we're going to be like 2 weeks into January. That's fine. Do it right now. It doesn't have to be at the very end of the year. We sat down and did this on New Year's Eve during the daytime.
Yes.
And we kind of worked on it a couple of days before. So I like to have it done by the end of New Year's, but it doesn't fucking matter. Do it right now. And the reason that I recommend you guys do this this technique of writing everything down that you achieved that year is we really fucking struggle. People who are into self-improvement, like you're exactly the same. We really struggle with giving ourselves credit. So like we're so focused on, you know, what we're going to do in the future that we don't look back and go like, actually, I'm way better off than I was a year ago.
Yeah, I think it's a focus on your upcoming goals, and then it's also a focus on what you feel like you didn't achieve.
Yeah.
And then it obviously, like you just said, neglects what you end up achieving.
And anyone who's into self-improvement, any of you guys listening, you're usually pretty high flyers, so to speak. You have big lofty goals. And so what we will do is we'll achieve a bunch of goals and then we'll go, yeah, but that doesn't count, or but that was just something I should have done anyway, or like, yeah, I'm not going to give myself credit for that because I needed to do that. I'm fat. I lost like 50 pounds. Yeah, but I needed to do that. I shouldn't have gotten fat in the first place. And so it's worth at least once a year, if not more often, but especially once a year, sitting down and forcing yourself, you will have to force yourself to give yourself credit for all the things you've done. Or even if you don't want to say giving yourself credit, at least just writing down some things that you're grateful for that happened that you don't want to, like would you go back in time a year or two when you didn't have these things? The answer is like, fuck no, I'm glad I have these things. I don't want to give them up. My old life sucked even more than this. So write those things down.
Yeah, like you said, if it's not giving credit, it's at least acknowledging that it happened and it was a thing that you did.
Yeah, almost like you're just saying like, this is cool. I'm glad this happened. So I would recommend writing these things down. You and I wrote down this big list, which is why I keep looking at the screen. I'm going to just basically read them all off. I would keep it as a record in the future so you can kind of look back and say, okay, I've done this. I've done this with previous podcasts where I've just recorded this list as a podcast so I can go back and listen to it. But I would recommend you guys like write it down. Go back. It is kind of fun looking back at how far you've come. Like,
yeah,
we could do a list. We'll do a podcast at some point of like you in particular, how far you've come. Like when I first met you, you had like no confidence. You couldn't look me in the fucking eyes. You were just like a train wreck of a human being. I mean, we all were when we were young, but Jesus Christ.
And like you said, if anything, it's a nice thing to look back. Like I would love to read or listen to the podcast that we've done 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And see like what your goals were at that point in time, because it's easy to forget and to kind of gloss over history when you're far into the future. So
yeah, and one thing that I found quite a few people have mentioned to me is they like looking back at the vlogs that I did, would have been like 5 or 6 years ago at this point, when I first started self-improvement, when I first started all this shit. And like I was so nervous, I couldn't fucking I was like a little boy. I was a cute little boy. All right, so I recommend writing down as many of these things as you possibly can. Don't be stingy. So it's better to have 50 or 100 things on your list rather than 5. Again, you might have to force yourself to write some of these things down, but you do want to have as many of these because the more you have, the more positive momentum and motivation you have. So it's way easier to go forwards in 2022 or whatever year you're listening to this. Hello, future. It's way easier to go forward in that year and crush it if you can show yourself that the previous year was a good year for you. If you can write down this big list of like 50 things, then you're going to already feel like, man, last year was actually pretty good. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I did quite a bit of shit. Okay, I'm going to do an even better 2022. But if you've only written down like 5 things, it's just less momentum. You're going to go like, well, great, I just have to do 6 things this year. Or you might be even more negative and go like, well, I only did 5 things. I fucking suck.
Yeah, something that might help with that, and I know that something that helped us is the fact that we do it together.
Yeah,
so
if you can do it with someone else. Yeah.
Another person to not only remember ones that you may have forgotten that you've done, because a year's a long time. Like, to look back into January, you do forget what you have done.
Yeah.
But if you are somebody that struggles to give yourself credit, having somebody to be like, no, that was it. Like, you did that thing. Like, that's a noteworthy thing. It may help to have somebody else, whether that's a friend or a partner or a family member, just somebody who would know your life reasonably intimately.
Yeah, and for those of you who are in my coaching programs, you guys all have accountability partners. One thing I make all my coaching clients do is get an accountability partner. So get your accountability partner to do this with you. For those of you who aren't doing coaching with me, go and find a fucking accountability partner. What I mean by that is find someone who's on the self-improvement path along with you. I've done a video in the past about getting an accountability partner. They don't have to be into the same goals as you, although that does help. And you will sit down with this person once a year and just brainstorm like a bunch of shit that you guys have done. So it makes it easier, like you say, if you have someone else there, because they can come up with extra stuff if you're struggling to give yourself credit.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing that I talk about a lot of the time is the slight edge. And if you don't know what that is, it's the idea that you reach your big goals by just taking a bunch of tiny little baby steps. So write down every little baby step that you took, even if it was something really fucking small. Like in December, I went to the gym for the first time ever. Like, for a lot of people, they'll say like, I'm not writing that down. I didn't achieve anything. It's like, yes, you fucking did. You did a hell of a lot more than 0. Starting the process of going to the gym is it's infinitely further along than sitting on the couch every day and never even starting. So any of those little baby steps that you took, write them down. A lot of the stuff you'll see as we go through and read out our list now, you're going to see a lot of it is like little baby steps. And that's the point. We did some big things. We'll talk about all the big things, but we'll talk about the little baby steps too. So as I said, we did this on New Year's Eve. You can do it whenever you want. You can do it before, on New Year's Eve, a week or 2 afterwards, but try and have it roughly around January. So we're going to read out our list. Our list has how many things on it? 83 things, but remember that it's a combined list. So we have roughly like 40 or so each. A lot of these are like overlap stuff, so we've got about 40 or 50 each. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of these are small things. That's kind of the point. We're trying to give ourselves positive momentum. We want you guys to do the exact same freaking thing. So what are some things that we are very happy about? I think the way we'll do this is I read one, you read one, so it's not boring. Sure. I'm not talking or you're not talking the whole time. So the first thing that came to mind when we were writing this list is we had 2 months of $5,000 per month. We had those 2 in a row. This was my goal for the entire year. I wanted to, by the end of the year, get to a point where we had 2 months of $5,000 because I was like, that would be fucking amazing. I don't think it's possible. We couldn't pay the bills before that.
Yeah, and I think the point of that number was that was the number that pays the bills.
Well, less than that. That was way more than pays the bills. But
comfortably.
Yeah, it was like, it was this pipe dream goal. And at the start of the year, I didn't think it was possible. I remember saying to you, I don't know if this goal is possible. Very fucking happy with how we did. We did it in like April. April was the second month in a row of that. Very fucking grateful for that. Grateful to everyone who signed up. Grateful for all my coaching clients and all that. Fucking hell. That was a big one. I think that was probably the biggest one because that was like the culmination of everything I've done over the last 3 years of like my website, all of that. I was like, I would give anything to be able to do this shit without having to work a fucking job. I wasn't sure that was possible. Clearly it is fucking possible. A year later, I look back because it's almost a year now. It's 9 months since we first did that. And I look back and I'm like, why did I ever think this wouldn't be fucking, like I couldn't pay the bills from this? Like,
I know, but it is. It's crazy to look back and think how drastically things have changed and it's only been 9 months.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was only 9 months ago that I was like literally freaking out about being homeless, that I was, posting on the forums and saying, fuck guys, I literally can't sleep. Like I was sleeping, remember, for like 3 or 4 hours a night maximum because I was so stressed about like, I can't pay the fucking bills. Like we're going to be homeless. Yeah. Even you were stressed about it. You were working a full-time job. We're going to talk about that in a second as well. So
yeah,
no spoilers. Right. You read the second one.
So the next one is last year, there were 2 $15,000 clients. So each client paid $15,000
each. Yep.
Which was huge, I think, because at the start, like a year ago, you were only charging a couple $100 a call.
$300 a call. Yeah. So I've gone from in like a year, like $300 a call to like $15,000 for the big. That's a coaching package. It's not one call. It's like 12 weeks of fucking intensive coaching. But
Yeah, and obviously we talked about it a lot, but like asking somebody for that much money, that's a scary thing to do. That was
so fucking terrifying. And I, full disclosure, I didn't just immediately say like, give me $15,000. It was like a year or so. It's been building up for like 3 years, yeah. And you add more. For anyone else who wants to do the same thing, I'll probably do videos. I know Radical keeps pushing me and saying, you know, you got to do videos on like how you charge that much money and how people pay it and how they're happy that you charge them that much money. So I'll do like a series of videos, but you do work up to it. You do testimonials from people. You make sure you change their fucking life. You don't just charge $15,000 to talk to you. You make sure you change their fucking life for It's $15,000. You got to change their fucking life. This isn't fucking around money. This is like a life-changing amount of money. So, you know, we built up to that. But yeah, remember when I first charged like $1,000 for a client for like 3 months of coaching?
That's how we got to our first $5,000 a month.
And I thought that was a lot of money. I was like, and it is, but I was like, you can't charge more than this. And then I did a seminar, like a course on how to raise your prices and shit like that. Shout outs to Dan Henry, fucking legend, love that guy. He's the reason that I was able to put my prices up. And because he comes at it from the same mindset as me. He's like, you got to change these people's lives. You got to give value. Like, people will pay you obscene amounts of money if you change their life. They won't just give you $15,000. Like, that's a stupid amount of fucking money. And so I put the price up to $5,000, remember? And I was terrified. I was like, no one's going to pay that. Like, how dare I ask this much money?
Yeah,
like,
you had someone pay it almost immediately.
Yes, we got to sign up within like a week.
Yeah.
He ended up paying like $6,000 or something. But it all ties into the same shit. It's like when guys first go out to, like, any of you guys that are going out and, I don't know, trying to build an amazing sex life or something. You have all these thoughts of like, how dare I walk up to women that I don't know and ask them if they would like to get a drink with me? Like, I don't have the right to do that. How dare I go on Tinder and try and sleep with people? I don't have the right to do that. Like, those are the thoughts that are in your head. What you got to realize is no one's going to give you permission. I'll try. Like, I give you guys permission, but you have to give yourself permission at the end of the day. And me charging this much money really was just like me giving myself permission. It was permission to ask.
Yeah.
Like, permission to say like, look, I can change your life. Here's how much I'm asking. Do you want to do this with me or not? Like, should we fucking be brothers in arms and change your fucking life together? Yes or no? And plenty of people say no. They're like, no, it's way more money than I was expecting. I literally can't pay that.
Yeah, it's almost like a form of rejection that you're scared of.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it, but there's this fear that people can be like, that's ridiculous. How can you charge that much money? Like, they'd almost be angry. Like, how dare you ask for that much money?
That's what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
But literally no one's done that.
Of course.
No one.
Yeah.
And by the way, $15,000 is the most expensive package. I have a cheaper one than that. But yeah, like, no one fucking... And the people who say yes are like, fuck yeah, brother, let's do it. Let's like fucking crush it.
Yeah.
And those guys fucking check. One magical thing, I really should do a video about this shit, shouldn't I? Because I like talking about this stuff. I just haven't gotten around to it. But one of the magical things that happens when you charge $15,000 or $5,000, like my cheap one is, my group coaching one is, one of the magical things that happens is someone goes, oh my God, I just paid a stupid amount of money. Some guys have to take out bank loans. Some people have to like pay in installments. There's, you know, can I pay you $1,000 now, a bit more later? Something magical that happens is because they paid such a stupid amount of money, they fucking changed their life. Like, you're not fucking around if you just paid someone this much money or $5,000 for my group coaching. Like, that's not fucking around money. And so you screen in only the most serious people. It's part of why we all push for honesty, or why I push you guys to be honest on Tinder or in person or when you're dating, when you're trying to get laid. I say be completely honest because you'll screen out all the people who don't want what you're offering. And you will directly screen in the people who do. And so a big part of my philosophy, a big part of what we're really doing here is screening. Like, I didn't come up with that concept. That comes from, you know, Mark Manson talked about that, especially Good Looking Loser. Chris from Good Looking Loser taught me that. But life is just way easier when you screen in the people who are on board with you, the people who are serious. You and I have done this with friends. I've talked about this before in my How to Make Friends guide, and I have a template. I have an article on my website called How to Make Friends. So go to killyourinaloser.com and search for How to Make Friends. And one of the points that I give you guys a template to just copy paste to people, like literally new people that you're meeting, and you just say like, here you go. I'm fucking seriously into self-improvement. I want guys who are going to be in a tribe with me, who are going to kick some fucking ass. And when you screen out the people who aren't that serious, whether it's women that you're dating or women that you're sleeping with or guys that you want to be friends with or clients or anything like that, family members, friends. You get rid of all the chaff, and you're just left with people who are ready to kick some fucking ass with you, or who want to have wild, crazy, amazing sex with you, or who want to be a fucking brother with you and would take a bullet for you. You're just wasting less time. We only have like one fucking life. I don't understand why so many people tolerate clients, especially, but friends, dating people like women. I don't understand why people tolerate people that they're not really that into or that aren't really that serious. You only have one fucking life. Screen out the people who aren't that serious.
It's almost again like a permission thing. Like you're allowed to tell people like, I don't want you in my life. Like you don't add to my life.
Yeah.
You're allowed to not offend people, just cut people out of your life.
You're not even offending them. You're being polite.
Yeah.
And that's something I do with my, like, how many people have I said, like, potential coaching clients that I just say, like, I'm sorry, bud, like, I'm not going to work with you.
Yeah, politely.
Like, if I think that they would pay me the money and then not actually change their life, I don't want fucking money if they're not going to, because that just makes me feel horrible if they give me a bunch of money and don't change their life. So I've turned down quite a few people now. We turn down some people, like, by email before they even fucking, they'll send a fucking coaching inquiry and I'll just say, like, hey, bud, don't think you're that serious. Like, no, thank you.
Yep.
You can say it in a polite way. And if you're cutting people out of your life, you can always be polite about it.
Of course. Next one.
Next one is a cool one. So I did a video or a podcast. I don't know, a podcast, whatever. I don't know. I did some piece of content recently. It might not be out yet. It might not be out yet on YouTube. If you're on my Patreon, you already would have heard it. But I think it's coming out on YouTube after this. I might be wrong. About my 1 year sober. 1 fucking year from alcohol. Didn't have any relapses. Went well. So we won't talk about that too much other than to say go watch the video whenever it comes out. Mm-hmm. That's been cool. That's been really nice. That's been very productive for me. Mm. And if you guys want to learn how to quit alcohol as well, like I said, watch the video. You don't have to. I'm not going to tell you to fucking get sober, but it's definitely been life-changing for me. It's been very helpful.
Yeah.
Yours?
So in January of last year, I quit my job at
your shitty job.
Yes, it was the definition of a shitty office job.
It was a bureaucratic nightmare.
Yes, absolutely. It involved me sitting at a desk all day and doing inane tasks that were highly inefficient, and my job basically didn't need to exist. So that's not a very frustrating. It is a very frustrating place to be when you know that you're rocking up to do a job that serves no purpose. It doesn't need to exist. The culture wasn't great. It was still, despite it being a useless sort of job, it was still very high pressure. There were very high expectations from management, and
unreasonable, I would say. It was an unreasonable job for a shitty pay with shitty people. Yeah.
Yes, and so the attrition rate, like people would drop out. Their turnover rate was, I think, they had to like rehire people every 3 months, and big batches of people too, like 20 or so. And after 3 months, most would be gone. I lasted the longest, and that was still only like 6 to 9 months. But I quit. It was terrifying. So this was at the start of last year where, again, we mentioned money was an issue. And so the whole point of me actually quitting my job was so that I could help Andy run his business, help with marketing and emails, and take some of the pressure off, because while I was still working that job, I wasn't really able to give much because I was so stressed working. And so when you'd ask me to do a podcast with you or help you out with emails or do a little task, I felt a bit overwhelmed by it because I feel like I already didn't have enough emotional energy to do much else. Yeah, we were both basically at a point where it was like we couldn't fucking pay the bill. Like I couldn't even pay my bills from my coaching. You could pay your bills from your shitty job. Yeah. But like you say, I wanted you to come on the podcast with me sometimes, and you just didn't have the time or the emotional energy for it. Remember that you were also doing art projects as well. People would pay you. I think a couple of my coaching clients even paid you to do like artwork commission for them. And you just didn't have the time or the energy. You were stressed to shit because you were working a full-time job. You know, you had a bunch of commitments. You're someone that's very active, like physically, and you have a bunch of friends and shit like that. And I was then on top of it saying, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And like, because you couldn't, fair enough. Yeah. And then I was stressed to fuck. Yeah. So we that ties into the next part, which is you basically quit your job. We took out a bank loan and we said, all right, we had a big talk about it first, but I said, like, look, we're both on I know there's something with what I'm doing here. I know that my coaching, I know that people are getting a lot out of it. People are willing to fucking pay money. At that point, we were charging like no fucking money, but
all the feedback was wonderful. Everyone said, like, you're really helping. Like, thank you for your content. Thank you for your coaching. And we'd had that for years because I've been doing content for years. So we knew what we were doing was helping people. I knew there was potential to go full time with it. And we took a crazy risk and said, what if you quit your job and help me? You know, we say marketing. It's not really marketing. Like posting my content on Reddit, on forums, screening my emails for me so it doesn't take as long for me to go through them, helping me with podcasts, doing little odd jobs and things for me. What if you quit your job and do all that for me? Like, could we, and I would pay your rent for you. So you'd be like my employee. Is that worth doing? And we had a big discussion. It was terrifying as fuck. That was probably the scariest thing I think I've done.
Because at that point, there wasn't a guarantee that it was going to work. And for me, the fear was, I'm going to have this debt to my name. And if we can't pay it off.
Because you took out a bank loan in your name. The bank loan was to pay the bills. Like, give ourselves a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of wiggle room for like 5 months. We took out a $20,000 bank loan and said, like, okay, we're going to use this to pay the bills while we don't have enough money right now to build the bills. Sorry, to pay the bills. And we'll build the business up. Yep. We'll build my coaching up. I don't like calling it a business. It feels really fucking dirty. I've said that before. I don't like calling this a business. It feels fucking wrong. This isn't a coaching business. It's like people paying me for coaching. Anyway, so we took out a bank loan, and that was like absolutely terrifying. That was so fucking terrifying. I know it was for you. We both struggled to sleep for like the first
few months.
Yeah.
More than
like
that.
we literally, I felt like I was fucking drowning. So did you. But it was the best decision we could have made. I knew that. I said that to you logically. I said, like, look, we will make it. This will make us go all in. Mark Manson and people like that have talked in the past about throwing yourself in the deep end and doing something like this. Yeah. This isn't something I recommend lightly to other people. Make sure you do your own research, understand what you're doing. But I've recommended quite a few of even my coaching clients have taken out bank loans to pay for coaching for me. I've had quite a few of one in particular I can think of, my coaching clients who have started businesses and they've taken out a bank loan to do that. So there's nothing wrong with debt and bank loans, but understand what you're fucking doing when you don't just go out and go like, all right, I'm going to take out a bank loan.
It's not free money.
Yeah, it's not free money. And what I say, this is what I had to coach one of my coaching clients. We'll just say Joe. He's got his own YouTube channel, so he's happy for me to say his fucking name. Go watch his channel. Is Passion Unchained, although I think he's called it something else. No, it's just Passion Unchained on YouTube. He's got some cool content on there, self-improvement content. Anyway, one thing I said to Joe was, if you're going to take out a bank loan, you got to dump that fucking money into something useful, like dump it straight into your business or dump it into your rent. Pay your rent in advance. This is what you and I did. It's like you just give it to your landlord and say, here you go, here's 6 months rent in advance. Like, put it towards the thing that you're saying it's for. Don't just leave it in your bank account, because it's very easy to look at it and go, oh, I've got $5,000 in my bank account.
I can buy dumb shit.
Yeah, I can go and buy some fucking coffee. It's like, no. That goes to your real estate or to a car payment you need to pay or to bills or to your phone bill or whatever it is. Like, immediately go and prepay your bills or go and give the money to your landlord. Get that money out of your account. It should not be sitting in your fucking account because it's not your fucking money. Good shit.
Yep. Next one.
Yours is, you read the next one.
Is we both did, made a bunch of friends who are into self-improvement. And the point of that one was screening a lot harder than I think I've ever done to screen for friends, especially.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say, you're someone that had, like, when I met you, you were 18. You just had friends from high school, and you've slowly screened out quite a few of those friends over time, especially with the lockdowns and all the crazy shit over the last 2 years, which has actually been quite useful for getting rid of the friends that were secret little authoritarians and didn't fucking tell you. Like, how many of your friends have you cut out that were like psychopaths, like literally telling you that you're a bad person because you don't want to be locked down and that you're going to kill grandma and all that kind of psychotic shit? So it's been quite useful in that way.
Yeah, very much so. And I think because in the past it almost hadn't been as much of a reason to, because it was very easy to have a bunch of casual friends and it's like, yeah, they're nice enough, like I'll hang out with them, it's fine.
Yeah.
But because obviously lockdowns and all of that shit was so polarizing, it made it very clear who I wanted to spend time with.
You were more picky with your friends. I became very picky as well.
Yeah, and like part of why like that was noted down is because that was something hard. I felt like a bad person. I felt, especially because we've moved a couple of times in the last year, it felt as if, what if I'm screening too hard and I won't make friends? I know you've said something about guys and like meeting women. It's like they're scared that if they screen crazy
they'll
girls
have
out.
none left. Yeah.
And there was definitely that thought. It's like, no one will like me. I'm not going to be able to find friends. And especially because I was at a place where I was a little bit, not desperate, but I was very keen to make some friends as soon as possible, having moved to somewhere new. It felt like I wanted to lower my standards for friends, but I had to resist that urge. So and now I've met a bunch of people who I really click with and we get along with, and we share a lot of similar interests and ambitions. And it's so much nicer having waited that little bit longer and actually have friends that I'm really keen to spend time with, and it feels like they pull me up, like, as a person.
Yeah, and as I said, I did a guide on how to make friends, and I talk about how to screen for people who are into self-improvement or people who have the same values as you, whatever you want to screen for. I've done articles on that. I did the exact same shit. I screened most of my friends were most of my friends were loyal and weren't for authoritarianism. I've done a good job of screening people over the years, and people who are into self-improvement are, generally speaking, going to be for individualism and against collectivism, like against authoritarianism. You guys don't tend to like rules. You don't tend to like being told what to do because you're into self-improvement. You're already kind of out of the matrix. You're already kind of doing your own shit. You already realize a lot of what is on the media is bullshit. They're just trying to make you unhappy and sell you something, sell you fear, basically. So you, generally speaking, if you find self-improvement friends, they tend to be pretty chill and they'll have your back in a crisis. So I was already pretty good, but I made a bunch more friends here, like where we moved to, because we moved a couple of times. I have a bunch of friends here who are pretty, against authoritarianism. So that's been good. All right. And the next one on the list is I started taking my bodybuilding seriously. I paid for a coach. I did a bunch of research first and looked up coaches and, how do I stop fucking around in the gym? Because I've fucked around in the gym for years and years and years. I've never taken my body seriously. It's probably, if you're looking purely at a self-improvement, if you're looking from a self-improvement point of view, my body is probably the letdown. I'm fucking confident. My style's pretty decent. At this point, we have enough money. We're not rich, but we have some money. Super experienced, obviously. Into BDSM, you're attractive, I'm attractive, all that shit. But just my body is way behind where I would like it to be. So I finally started taking that seriously and said, okay, I need to actually pay someone to keep me accountable. So I've started taking that seriously. That means a nutrition plan. The gym, haven't been perfectly consistent, but I've been infinitely more consistent than in the past. So in the past, I would go fucking 6 months without going to the gym. I would just fuck around so much. The longest I've been, now it's I'll skip 1 session or 2 sessions a week. So even over Christmas, I skipped 3 over the 3 weeks of Christmas, 3 sessions. So not perfect, but infinitely better, which is what we're going for here, guys. Remember, the mission of this list and self-improvement in general is to make improvements. It's not necessarily to be perfect. Perfect isn't actually a concept that exists, because you'll reach perfection and then you'll go, oh shit, I should also do this as well. And then, hey, now you're not perfect again. So you're never going to be perfect, but work on improving, be better than yesterday, all that kind of shit.
Yeah. And I think I will note that a big thing with the bodybuilding coaching was it was a little bit hard for you to let go of control at the start.
Oh,
I remember
yeah. I'm arrogant as fuck. I don't like letting other people tell me what to do.
Month and a half. And you would tell me that you didn't like the nutrition program, you didn't like squatting, you didn't like lunges.
Argued with everything my coach. I didn't argue with him, but I would complain about what he was making me do. And that was me letting go. I did have to let go. It's part of why I had to kind of be humble. It's something that I know Radical talks about a lot. Being humble is very important in self-improvement. And I'm definitely not, I'm humble in a lot of areas, but not in the gym for some reason, even though I suck shit at the gym. But I always had an arrogance of I'm going to do it my way. I was the classic newbie who comes onto my forums and goes, I want to get laid. And you go, okay, first step is post your photos right now so we can see what you look like. No, I don't want to post my photos. And you're like, okay, but we can't give you any advice if we don't know what you look like. Can't you just tell me what to do? And it's like, but we don't know what you look like. We don't know if you're fat. We don't know if you dress terribly. We don't know if you're good looking. We don't know if you're short. We don't know if this. We don't know if you need to fix your hair. We don't know if you need to fucking lose some weight. We don't know if you need better pictures on Tinder. We don't know if you need to up your style if you're going to go outside and talk to women. We don't know anything about you, so post your pictures. And they'll go no, Not going to post my
people
pictures.
are so bad at like gauging with that. They're like, oh, I'm pretty good, and then you finally like get pictures out of them, and you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, you're not. But
so I was doing that with the gym. I was going like, but I go to the gym sometimes, like every now and then. So like, why don't I have a great body? And it's like, because you're not going to the gym consistently. So it did take a lot of humility. It took a lot of my ego fucking coming crashing down, and I'm still working on that. I still now will sometimes, quite often have points where I'm like, no, my coach is wrong on that. And then I have to be like, yeah, and if you're going to keep telling your coach that he's wrong, or if you're going to keep not doing what he says, you're going to keep getting the results you've always gotten. So that's been a nice change for me. And on a similar note, another item on the list.
Yes. So your coach, they co-own their coaching business, I guess. And
who's they? You got to give context.
Your bodybuilding coach co-owns the business with another coach.
Correct.
Who I started seeing.
Yep. You started seeing the female coach.
Yeah. And I think, so the reason that felt important to me was I've said for years, I want a nice butt. Like I want to do.
Every woman wants a nice butt. Every guy listening to this is like, yeah, that's all women do in the fucking gym. They just do their butt. They just work on their fucking ass.
I still do two upper body
To
days.
be fair, you do a lot of upper body. Yeah, show your biceps off. Show your fucking butt. No, the
other
other
one.
You got to do the other
like
one. Show your fucking. Look at that fucking bicep. Bitch, fucking lifts weights.
I do. But so that was important because I'd always put it off. It was something that I'd always said, I'll lose fat first and then I can work on building my glutes. And I've said that for years and never done any real glute training. Like I've done other exercises, it's just never something that I've targeted because obviously that's very specific training. And so I started seeing, her name is Izzy, and her whole shtick is like she helps girls get a nice butt. So I mean, that's like,
because what else do women want in the gym? Nothing. Nice butt and fucking that's it.
Yeah. And so that was important for me. It was me saying, I'm allowed to have this now. I don't need to keep delaying something that I want because I feel like I'm not lean enough.
Yeah.
And in keeping that with that, I'll do the next one because it's related to me. But I also saw an eating coach. An
eating disorder coach.
Yeah, like an emotional eating coach for a couple of rounds. And that was big because she was not cheap.
She's very expensive.
But
worth it though. Expensive is, I hate the word expensive.
Yeah, but she was very worth it, and she gave me a lot of ideas that I still use now and have been very fundamental in the way that I view food and treat my eating. And again, this was just another thing that, and you had to push me a lot to do it too.
I had to force you. I had to literally pay for it and be like, here you go, I already paid for it, shut up and fucking do it.
I know, because I kept delaying it and putting it off and being like, oh, it's too much money, but it was, it's been incredibly important in the way that I view food and view myself, and made a lot of changes around that. Yeah.
Funnily enough, quite a few of my coaching clients, and I'm sure like guys listening, you leave a comment if this is something you struggle with, like fucking binge eating. But guys are less likely to call, like even I fucking binge eat all the time. I say it all the time. There's a world in which you could say like, oh, Andy has a binge eating disorder. And I'm not someone that likes to diagnose anything. I'm probably fucking autistic and ADD. We've talked about this a million times, ADHD. But I don't like to diagnose shit because I feel it makes you a fucking victim and it doesn't actually help. But a ton of my coaching clients, I can think of 2 in particular right now. I can think of 3 who have issues with or who are working on binge eating. But guys are less likely to call it binge eating. It's just like, I like to stuff my face with pizza and eat fucking 6,000 calories when I'm sad. And so this is something that a lot of people fucking deal with, is like overeating or fucking using food to self-medicate. It's so easy because there's fast food everywhere. We live in the era of Uber Eats, where you can just order 50,000 calories to your house and just pretend that it's for your friends and not for you. It's sort of like a secret. It's like porn. Porn is such an issue for so many people because it's right fucking there on your computer. You can just literally type in a couple of words on Google and bam, you're there. Same with Uber Eats. It's like, get your phone out, 2 seconds later, you've got food in your house. So this is something a lot of people struggle with, is overeating or body image issues, or you can even just phrase it as not being able to stick to your diet or struggling with weight loss. You can call it that. So yeah, I'm glad that you took that seriously. I mean, you have been for years, but this was the point where it was like, okay, let's just pay for a fucking eating coach and see what they have to say. And she's been great with that shit.
Yeah. And so the next point is that I did start being, so the next success, or the thing that we noted down, was that I've started to be a lot kinder to myself.
Yeah, not beating yourself up for overeating.
Yeah, and it's been a work in progress, again, for multiple years, but having a lot more self-acceptance and self-love, and I know every coach that I've ever worked with has always said this, but you need to love yourself in order to be able to succeed with this, at least for me, because food was such an emotional crutch, and it's very easy when you're feeling sad and you're angry at yourself for eating to want to use food to feel better, and then it goes on forever.
Yeah. And for guys, when they listen to that, I think most of you guys are pretty decent with this shit, but every now and then there'll be a guy that listens to that and goes like, self-love, that's gay. Like, so what are you talking about, self-love? Okay, fine. If that doesn't resonate with you, phrase it like this: stop being a cunt to yourself. I wrote an article a while ago called Stop Being a Cunt to Yourself. Go on Kill Your Inner Loser and just type in cunt, and it will search for that article. And if you don't want to sit there and go like, I love myself, I'm going to be nice to myself, like all the Instagram posts, that positive motivation that make you feel good, like, you got to love yourself, baby. Like, some person sitting on a mountainside with the sunset in the background, and they're doing a yoga pose, and it goes like, it's important to love yourself. If that doesn't resonate with you, fine. At least stop being a cunt to yourself. If you can't say anything nice to yourself, at least make a promise that you will never say anything mean or negative or bad or horrible to, or beating or bullying yourself down. Another way of phrasing this is be a best friend to yourself. However you would treat your fucking friend, treat yourself like that. You don't get a special pass of beating yourself up just because you can't defend yourself. Because really, that's what this is. This is bullying. If you're going to sit there and say horrible stuff to yourself, that is bullying, because you can't fight back against yourself. And so you are essentially just bullying someone who can't fight back. That's fucking torture. More to the point, you can't leave yourself. If you, or whoever's you listening, if you started saying horrible shit to me, I would laugh at first, and then it would start offending me if you kept going, and I would just leave the room. I'd be like, fuck this, bye. Like, why the fuck am I going to tolerate you saying horrible shit to me? What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm going to leave. But you can't leave when you're the one bullying yourself. So now you're bullying and torturing someone who literally can't leave and won't fight back. I can't think of anything more evil than that. So if you're not going to love yourself, at the very least, make a promise that you won't be a cunt to yourself.
Yeah, and in doing so, it helps your relationships with other people too.
Yes.
A big part of the reason why this was so important was because it affects our relationship. It affects the dynamic.
Yeah, you being horrible to yourself means it's harder to be nicer to other people. You're not someone that's ever mean to other people, but the most you can ever be is like okay or nice to other people, but you can't be truly fucking loving to other people.
Yeah, and it absolutely helps with insecurity when we see other girls or anything like that. Even just how you spend time with your friends and having more loving, happy energy to give them. It's being self-loving it achieves so much more and has such a bigger, has a far greater span than you would initially think it does.
It recharges your batteries. Yeah, this isn't just some I got to be nice to myself. It's like you have a hell of a lot more to dedicate to self-improvement, to any of your goals, if you at least like yourself, or if at the very least you make a promise to yourself, okay, I'm not going to say anything horrible to myself. Maybe I'll be a little mean to myself, a little hard on myself, but I won't say anything horrible. If you can just start with that, just stop being a cunt to yourself, my God, you have so much more to give to your mission, to your passion. What's easier? Working on your goals when you feel really good and everything's great and wonderful and you're motivated, or working on your goals when you feel like fucking shit? You absolutely know it's harder to work on your goals when you feel like shit. So why are you sitting there making yourself feel like shit? That's so incredibly counterintuitive. It is better to literally go like, I'm going to try and be nice to myself. The same way you would for your best mate. If he was sitting there feeling, forlorn or depressed or hopeless, you'd be like, come on, mate, you got this, buddy. I believe in you. You're fucking great, dude. You can do this. Come on. You'd pep talk him, because you know that him feeling better will make him go and work on his goal. You wouldn't sit there and be like, yeah, you're a fucking pussy, man. You're such a fucking loser. You're probably never going to fucking make it. The fuck is wrong with you for even trying, dude? I can't believe I'm even your friend. Like, other people are probably just embarrassed to even look at you in public, let alone fucking know you, man. You're a fucking loser. Is he really going to change his life after you say that? No. So don't say that shit to yourself. It's incredibly silly and counterintuitive. Let's wrap up this episode We've made it through 10 so far out of like 83. But I did want to go deep on each one, and, hopefully we've given you guys a bit of value. I didn't want to just read them out. I want to talk about, stuff you can learn from them, why we've done it, blah, 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 blah. So is there anything else you would like to add? We're going to do this as a multi-part series. So we will get through all of them. Maybe next episode we'll do 15 and we'll go a little quicker, but I'd like to keep them to roughly 30, 40 minutes each so they're watchable. Anything you want to add to these beautiful bastards and beautiful bitches watching?
That's all from me.
All right. Adios, guys. Go crush your fucking goals. We'll come at you with part 2 in the next day or so. Yeah. Adios.